My name is David Jaffe. Welcome to the Wealth and Health Podcast, where you'll learn valuable skills and positive habits that will improve your life. This podcast originally aired as a video on my YouTube channel at youtube.com/BestStockStrategy. The Wealth and Health Podcast is brought to you by BestStockStrategy.com. The more responsibility you have, the more stress there will be. David Jaffe with BestStockStrategy.com, and in this video, we are going to discuss why more money and more stress goes hand in hand. Many people want to have more money. However, from experience, I can tell you that the more money you make, the more responsibility you're going to have to assume, and the less free time you're going to have, and the less happy you're going to be in your life. A lot of people believe that making money is a cure-all. They believe that as long as they have an amazing job or as long as they have a sustainable and successful business, then they're going to be happy. However, making your happiness conditional is not a healthy way of living. From my experience when working as an investment banker, some of the most unhappy people were the managing directors. Oftentimes, these managing directors would be worth $10 to $30 million. However, in order to gain that level of wealth and also to achieve the title of managing director, they had to sacrifice their family. They had to sacrifice their 20s, 30s, and 40s. And they also had to endure enormous amounts of stress where they were constantly concerned about being fired. They were constantly competing with one another. And I can tell you from experience that whereas many people, especially if you're watching this and you're not very well off, you might believe that if you have $100,000 or $200,000 or $500,000 in the bank, that you're going to be happy. However, I want to make it clear that you have to ask yourself, what are you willing to sacrifice in order to achieve that level of wealth? Because the more money you make, the more responsibility you will have to assume, and the more happiness you will have to sacrifice in order to obtain your goals. Remember, the more responsibility you have, the more stress you're going to have. This was told to me by one of my best friends. He is not married. He does not have any kids. He recently came back from a trip to Brazil, and around December 15th of 2020, he's going to take a trip to Colombia. He is not the wealthiest person. However, he works at some of the most prestigious hotels in the country, but he also doesn't overwork himself. My friend is incredibly stable. He doesn't get too high, nor does he get too low. And part of the reason for that is he's not being pulled in too many different directions. He doesn't own that many things. He doesn't even own a house. And from my experience, it is those people who live the cleanest, who live with the most minimalistic lifestyle, that are oftentimes the most content with their life. Is he ever going to be worth $5 million? No. Is he ever going to be worth even $1 million? Probably not. However, I believe that his life is more fulfilling than my life in many respects. Because from my perspective, when I wake up in the morning, I have a to-do list of about 10 to 15 things. I'm constantly juggling so many balls up in the air at once that it's extremely difficult for me to get things done. Sometimes I'm doing one thing and then I'm being pulled in another direction. And I can just tell you from experience that if you do not have a lot of responsibility, then oftentimes that's a good thing. Now, if you bring things to the extreme on both ends of the equation, then that's going to be negative. You have to be in the middle, and moderation is key. If you have no responsibility, then many people will consider you a loser, and you might even consider yourself a loser, because if you're not working, if you're not taking advantage of the time that you have on this earth, then you may feel that you're not using your time efficiently and productively. However, on the opposite end of the extreme, if you have too many things to do, if you're juggling too many balls in the air at one time, then you're going to frequently feel stressed out, worn down, tired, and in many respects, your productivity might actually decrease because you're going to have higher stress levels. So I guess the main point of this video is take a step back and evaluate your own life. Do not envy anybody else. Those people on YouTube who are driving expensive cars, many of which are rented, and who are living in expensive homes, many of which are rented, you should not envy them at all. Try to be content, and most importantly, try to be balanced. Because I have been in many situations where I've seen guys who have slept with 1,000 girls when I was working as a nightclub promoter, and now they're older than me. They're probably in their 40s, and they're still working as a nightclub promoter, and many of them are addicted to opioids, and some of them also have an alcohol dependency. That is not a great lifestyle. However, on the opposite end of the extreme, you see the managing directors at investment banks or the private equity guys who have sacrificed so much of their life to obtain their wealth that they wish they can go back and do things over and experience life and have the freedom that they sacrificed in order to travel, in order to meet people, in order to cultivate and establish relationships. So remember, do not be envious of anybody. Just work on yourself, eat healthy, sleep well, make sure that you take care of your physical and mental health, and also always keep in the back of your mind and remember that the more responsibility you have, the more stress you're going to have. And different people cope with stress in different ways. Some people might end up getting depressed. Other people might end up thriving under a little bit of stress. Other people might become paralyzed if there's too much stress. So remember to listen to your body. And because you know yourself better than anybody else, you can then decide how much responsibility you want to assume. David Jaffe with BestStockStrategy.com. Remember, do not be envious of anybody. Just take a step back. You know yourself best. Evaluate what's best for you and make the best decision that's right for you. At the end of the day, you're not competing with anybody. You are only competing with yourself. And all of us are going to die. You don't want to be in a situation when you are no longer able to travel or meet people or establish amazing relationships and have regrets. You do not want to have regrets. So if that means saying no to opportunities, so be it. If that means assuming less responsibility so that you have more free time in order to enjoy your life, then so be it. Leave a comment below. Please like this video. It helps out with the YouTube algorithm. And let me know your thoughts on whether you believe that you should assume more responsibility or the amount of productivity and responsibility that you have in your life right now is balanced. Visit BestStockStrategy.com and submit your email address to receive valuable free training. Please give this podcast a positive rating and review. If you have any questions, visit BestStockStrategy.com and send me a message.